Look. Well, hello and welcome to Between the Seams Volume 1. This has been a long time coming for us, this series, and something that both of us have really wanted to put together over the last few years. We get asked a lot by you guys at the shows, myself and Tristan, what we get up to in our own personal fishing in between and around running the brand. We're taking the cameras with us where possible, whether that's to day ticket lakes or campaigning on our own syndicates, across the water to Europe, and giving you a real insight into what we like to get up to in our own angling. So with that quick introduction out the way, first up you're joining me over a local day ticket lake back in May earlier this spring to try and catch my first carp of the year. We've got some park lake action and also a bit from both of our syndicates as well. So stay tuned to see what we've been up to so far this year. Hope you enjoy watching. So as I was just saying before, we do like to visit day tickets a couple of times a year. Today you're joining me over Chigborough Lakes in Malden, which is local to me where I live. And I actually haven't caught a carp yet this year. It's late May 2018 and it's just been such a busy year so far. We came out of show season, we've been really busy behind the scenes getting our surge launch ready, which went out in April this year. And to be honest, it's just been all steam ahead. So today is the first opportunity I've had to go out fishing. I'm going to be using all sorts of tactics today to try and bag myself one. I've got a rod out at the moment on the deck where I've seen a few fish in the area. I have got two other rods with me as well, so I'm fully equipped for a bit of surface fishing, a bit of stalking. I'm going to keep really mobile. I've only got one small rucksack, an unhooking mat and a couple of rods and a net. That's all I've got. So let's see how we get on today, and I'll update you in due course. One little rod in where we've seen a bit of activity so far. It's absolutely sheeting up. I've just put the rod in and it's still going. So one little stalking rod, handful of bait, hook bait that's hard on the deck. Just sit back, give it 10-15 minutes and watch to see what's going on. Don't get a pick up, then we'll move on, make the most of our time, move on, try and make something else happen. Well, I thought there'd be a bit of an opportunity there to quickly nick a bite, but I think in hindsight the bubbling I'm seeing is either tench, bream, possibly a bit of oxygen mixed in there as well. So without wasting too much more time, I've given it a good half an hour now, and I've been to check the other spots that I've primed earlier, but I don't think they're visiting the spots just yet. So the sun has now come up, so it's a bit warmer. I've just set a rod up for fishing on the top, and I've got my other little rod set up ready to fish in the edge with. So I think the best idea for me now is to get on the move, walk round the next little lake, which is Scrailymere, have a look at the May Lake as well, try and stumble across some fish that are up in the upper layers, try and get a few going on top, and hopefully bag one that way. So catch up with you in a little while. Been for a walk round Scrailymere, which is one of the other walks around the back. Absolutely covered in weed. We only saw one fish there, so we've crept back onto the May Lake. Gone through a few swims to have a look. Just arrived at one, pinged out a couple of mixes, and I've seen a couple of fish come out of the bush. Anyway, they've come out and they've taken a few now, so I'm just setting up to put a controller on, get out to a couple. Trish just flicking a few mixes out there while I'm doing this bit of setup. So yeah, hopefully give it a go. See what happens. Pressure's off, first carp of the year. How about that? First carp of the year. Lovely, probably scrape a £20 common, taken just off the edge of the bush. That's why I love coming to these day tickets a couple of times a year to get a bend in the rod and catch fish like this. Hopefully, it's only approaching 12 o'clock, so we've got plenty more time. Hopefully a few more. Another one. So there you go, just caught my first carp of the year. It's only May, so nice and early. I was really happy with how that just sort of went. Sort of walked into a swim. We're on the May Lake now. Saw a couple of fish just milling around by a bush, pinged out a couple of mixers and managed to get them both going, taken really confidently straight away, to be honest. It took a few casts to get in the right position, but as soon as it wasn't long before it came up and took my hook bait. Played it in, didn't think it was that big, to be honest, the whole way I was playing it in, and even when I netted it, but could quite clearly see when it was on the mat that it was probably a scraper 20. I mean, all fish do look quite big to get up against me, to be honest, because I'm only a short guy. So yeah, but so I think the swim at the moment, I'm just sitting here pinging a few mixers out. I think we're going to give it another 10 to 20 minutes. If they do return after the disturbance, then obviously give it another go fishing for them. If not, we're going to up sticks and have a stroll along the path, pop into a few more swims and see if we can find some more fish.
Surprised how many fish are getting this little bit actually.
Yeah, there's been a lot.
Yeah.
Should have caught one by now, put it that way.
Beautiful.
Hello.
Nice. Oh, that's a sick angle.
How about that for number 2? Taking a little while longer to get this one, and as you can see, it's now raining, the sun's gone in, conditions have changed quite some, but we're having fun, so I'm going to carry on. Still got a few hours left of the day, hopefully to bag another one of these nice beautiful commons. So just a quick little update for the camera before we get on the move. We've been in this swim for a few hours now, and it seems like the fish have moved out after the disturbance from that one I caught earlier. We've sat it out for as long as possible, but they've just not come back. So it's definitely time to get on the move again and try and find another group of fish somewhere to get feed in. I have managed to put a bottom rod out, which did produce a tench. Not really complaining because I don't really mind what comes along, to be fair. It's a nice bit of action on a day's fishing like this. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to get round, get packed up, whip that rod in, see if we can find some more fish, and see if we can nick one last one before we go home. Well, just had a walk around from where we was earlier. Unfortunately on the way I haven't stumbled across any more groups of fish. I've seen the odd one here and there taking a bit of scum off the top. You know, possibly an odd mixer, but nothing substantial enough to stop and to try and fish for them, basically. So I've gone with plan B. I've come round back onto where I started this morning on the Haybridge Mere, and in the past it's had some really good form for just dropping on and fishing really close quarters. So knocked up a little bit of my in the edge mix, if you like, which is just crumb boilie. Oh, I've just seen one over your shoulder there, just flop out. Anyway, so I've just put together this little mix, which is crumb boilie and small micro pellets. This lake in particular is really tree lined, so there's like small little gaps in the trees where I can creep one rod if I see anything that's worth putting a rod on. So for the last hour or so of this session, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be up and down this track behind me, putting in bits of bait here and there, and constantly going back and checking them. If I see anything that's worth angling for, if I can see that there's fish feeding on the spots and eating the bait, then I will. If not, catch me on the next diary video. Like I said, I don't really get many days like this, so you will be joining me on my Syndicate water. But I hope you'd enjoyed watching. I've really enjoyed filming it, and I've really enjoyed being out on a nice little day ticket trip like this. So if I don't have another one this evening, I'll see you on the next one, and cheers for watching.
Look. Wave there and inside out, and off the side. I just don't know if I can connect it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Hello, I'm Tristan, and as Louis said previously, we do occasionally like to get out and fish some of the different venues in the UK as opposed to fishing our normal club lakes and syndicates. We're here today at Lake Meadows in Billericay, right next to an industrial estate. It's a busy little park lake with constantly people walking through with their dogs, on the way to work or in days out with their family. I did manage to get down here last night for a short amount of time. We're only about half an hour before dark, and on dark the gates do shut to the park and you're not allowed back in. We've been here for a couple of hours now, and I've managed to get my rods on the spots that I did find yesterday. The mist is starting to lift and we have seen a few fish show. So that gives you a rough idea as to where we are and what we're doing. We're going to give it another hour or so now, get the gear on the barrow, get mobile and try and find some more fish. It's around about 12 o'clock now. We've been sat in this swim for a good few hours, and to be quite honest, I haven't seen anything for a little while. This morning when we got here, there were loads of fish crashing in front of us. By the time we've sort of got the rods out, sort of knew where we wanted to fish, they had moved on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reel in, put my main carp rods in the van, and work off the barrow with a stalking rod, a couple of buckets and a bottom rod. I'm going to work my way around the lake and try and find them. So we're about halfway around our first lap of the lake now, as I say, going around with a couple of rods, some mixers and bits and bobs, trying to find the fish. We have seen a couple, although there have been sort of single fish on their own, mooching around, not really in a feeding sort of mood, which is surprising because apparently sort of just over a week ago they were having a really heavy spawn. As I say, we're going to keep going around the lake, continue to try and find fish, do what we can. About an inch deep. Yes! That'll do. We've been looking around the whole lake for it. Yeah. Obviously there's all the like, hay bales laid across there to stop the fish coming this far up. Yeah, yeah. But I was just walking around the corner and I saw like a big cloud. And I thought, I just got a tiny little bit of bait on his head within 5 minutes. Oh. This is a carp. Pretty one. Here we go. First one, not exactly where I expected to find them. In a small end of the lake, which is sort of kind of cut off a little bit to stop the fish getting in here. But a few have managed to get through. No more than a foot of water. I saw this one's tail just under the surface and flicked a tiny little wafter at it, and within 5 minutes, as I was messing about with a bit of bread on top, rod tip was banging away, and here we are, my first little park lake mirror. Over the moon with this. Mark, absolutely chuffed with that because really worked for it. Been all over the lake trying to find them and found them in the last place he was expecting. There's still a couple of fish there as well, so I'm going to do exactly the same. See if we get off one. Yeah, they're not doing the same as they were before. So we're back in the same swim that I started in this morning. As you saw, went off and did a little bit of stalking, and we were lucky enough to bag one as well, which was absolutely fantastic. A really good atmosphere. There was a couple of little families watching, they got right involved, even got a couple of pictures with us as well. It's looking good for this evening. We've seen a couple more fish in the area. The temperature's just starting to drop a little bit, and it's looking absolutely pucker for a bite. So with that, I'm going to get this rod back out and hopefully get a bigger one. Well, unfortunately we didn't get that one last carp we were after. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable session nonetheless, to a lovely new venue which I will most certainly be coming back to in the near future. It hasn't proved to be the easiest of all days. The carp weren't easy to find, and when we did find them, trying to take a hook bait was another story altogether. The light's going now, we've got about 10 minutes left. As you can see, my gear's all packed up behind me, just got a couple of rods left out now. I'm going to reel them in a minute and get off. Stay tuned to see Louis. He's up next. We'll see how he gets on in his next session.
So as I said at the end of my first section on this diary piece, the next time you see me, you'll be joining me over at my Syndicate water. I'm down here this evening. Unfortunately, I couldn't get into the swim that I really fancied on the main lake that I'm focusing my efforts on. Have been baiting it recently as well. Unfortunately, there's another angler in it, so you win some, you lose some. Had everything in the car packed and ready to do a session this evening anyway, so I've popped onto the Lagoon Lake, which is one of the other lakes on the complex. There's 3 here. There's this one, which is quite an open, really maturely, nicely landscaped, but left alone. So it's quite a natural looking lake with a few snags, a very shallow end that's full of weed at the moment, the fish absolutely love. And then the main body of the lake, which is a like sort of big piece of water, big round, with bars and plateaus and gullies and all sorts of up and down on the bottom. A long lake. I've spotted a few fish there this week, so what I'm hoping to do is, the weather is due to be quite warm and sunny from early tomorrow morning. I've fully bought all the surface gear with me and some stalking rods, and I'm hopefully going to try and make it happen in the morning on their sort of close quarters or off the top. So I've got a barbecue on now. The sun's just going down. It's dipping over the tree line on the back. I'm going to get tucking in to my food before it burns to a crisp in the background, and hopefully get my head down for the night, and even more so hoping for a bite in the morning. Well, good morning. As you can probably see, I look like hell. I've had a terrible night's sleep last night, and unfortunately it's not down to catching fish. The mozzies were absolutely out in force last night. I tried sleeping on just the bed chair and with the brolly up, but either way, even tucked under the bed chair cover, just would not help. Either way would not help. So I've ended up sleeping in the car last night, just with the mattress from my bed chair, sleeping bag and the cover, just with the windows open, because after about the first 15 mosquito bites I couldn't handle it anymore, along with the hay fever that seems to be really bad in this area. It's must be all the cut grass that's around here. Anyway, so it's now about 6:30 in the morning. I woke up to a take this morning, but like I said, it's not due to catching fish. It was a coot that managed to dive down 11 feet and pick up my hook bait, which is always handy. So first time actually sleeping in the back of the car and waking up to a take, it was melting off as well. It was clutch was ticking away, alarm was fully sounding. I hopped out the car, hit the boot button, run down to the rod,
and when I got here I could see a coot flapping around on the surface, but it didn't manage to hook him, so luckily I didn't have that absolute onslaught of unhooking one and causing a load of disturbance this morning on the spot and in the swim. So I got away with that one really quite lightly. Since then, I've put the rod back out. All the coots have disappeared now, and I've just been sitting here watching the water. I've seen one fish show that's definitely a carp, mid water between me and the bank opposite. It was the biggest swell, and saw the aftermath of a carp crashing in. Nothing massive, but it's a good sign that they're in this sort of end of the lake, if you like. So other than that, not a lot to report, but what I am going to do is just finish this coffee, continue watching the water for a little bit longer, get my head down for another hour or so. It's only about 6:30, and then when I wake about 7:30, 8 o'clock, if I haven't caught one by then, I'll be doing exactly what I said last night, and I'll be packing up, putting all the gear in the car and taking the surface gear over to the lake over the back, the long lake, and see if I can't nick one on there before I go to work this morning. So there you go, would you believe it? Just took a quick nap for a half hour or so since I last spoke to the camera, and was woken up by an absolutely peeling take on the long rod. I've gone and caught myself my first carp from this new lake. An absolutely beautiful one at that as well. Beautiful. How things can change within literally just a few minutes. As I mentioned when I was holding the fish, I took a nap after updating the camera last time, and it would have been around half an hour or 20 minutes, even if that. I just drifted off to sleep, and yeah, woke up to an absolutely peeling take on the right hand rod, which is fished long towards the reeds on the far bank. It was a really spirited fight as well, to be honest. I mean, I'm fishing at probably 18 and a half wraps out towards that bank. I'm off the left hand side of a bar, so I noticed the bar from being up in the treehouse yesterday, and I wanted one rod in some sort of shallow water. And I'm guessing it's around about 4 feet. So as the sun's come up this morning, they're obviously going over the bar, and with just a light scattering of bait and a single white pop-up, I managed to trip one up. I literally can't get over it. I'm so chuffed that I've caught. Had an absolutely horrendous night's sleep last night, and it's all come good this morning. So to bring you up to date, it's around about sort of heading towards 9 o'clock now. The sun has actually dipped over the clouds. It's hidden behind the clouds now, so I don't think it's going to be an easy task to find any fish on the long lake to fish for on the top, just yet anyway. I'm going to be sitting it out just while I'm packing up, see what the weather does. If the sun does creep back out, then I'll give it a go and see if I can nick one off the top before I go to work. So if you hear from me again on this session, it'll either be with another one in my hands, which I'm hoping for. If not, you'll be joining me for a bit of surface fishing and see if I can get one before work. If not, I'll be back next week anyway, so the next diary entry will be next week regardless. So if I don't see you later, I'll see you next week. I'm whispering because a few fish about. I can see them from up in the treehouse. I've seen two real big ones. I think one of them that I've seen think that it's the big fully. well, fortunately I couldn't make it happen on this occasion. There was a fair few fish here, but they slowly pushed out of reach, so I went after them. Managed to get right up close to a couple that were taken, but just weren't having it in the end. They've all drifted off now, so it's probably about time for me to drift off as well. Definitely pushed my luck too much today. I've got to get to the office now and get some work done. So I best whip the rods in, head over to work, and finish my day there. So I'll see you next time.
Right, so you join me over in my Syndicate. It's mid-July and I've done 6 nights on here this year. So not quite as much as I anticipated, but you know, work's been busy, Lou's been exactly the same, trying to fit fishing in where we can, but just really struggling to find time in general, to be honest. Anyway, over here now. It's about 7:30, got a couple of hours left of light, and an initial walk round is just quite busy. You know, there's probably about 7 or 8 people fishing, and there's only probably 12 swims, so I've still got a little bit to play with, but not without jumping in right next to anyone. So it's brought me around to this little bay, somewhere I haven't fished before. As I say, I've only done 6 nights, and that was 6 different swims. There's a chop on the water. It's just come in, sort of pushing into the bay nicely, which looks pucker. I think I saw a fish just under the surface. Although I had my Polaroids on, you know, barely saw it, but it was enough for me to go on. So I'm going to come around in now. I'm going to keep it super quiet because it's been left, from what I gather from talking to a couple of anglers now, it's been left for the last few days. No one's been fishing in here. There's been people either side, but no one's actually fished in this swim. So I'm not going to mess about. I'm going to try and find a couple of tiny little spots, a tiny little bit of bait, it's really lightly, and see what I can find. So as I said, never fished this swim before, never even cast a lead in it. So to keep the disturbance down to an absolute minimum, try to be as quiet as I possibly can, because I think there are fish in here. I don't want to lose them. I'm using one of my old little 9-foot stalking rods. Just really nice and lightweight. 2-pound test curve, a little 3/4 of an ounce lead there. Just minimal disturbance to try and find out just how deep it is, if there's any weed, anything like that. I don't want to know everything. I just need to know if I can present a bait and get the fish back if I get a take. So. Simples, quietly. So I've been here for getting on around about 2 hours now. I've finally got all the rods out. I think I'm quite confident how I've got them out. I got them out quite quickly, but with minimal disturbance. I found some quite cool little spots. About sort of 15 yards out from here, there's what feels like an old dying weed bed or something. Up to that point, it's really shallow. I wouldn't even say 2 foot sort of thing. But beyond that, it drops off a little bit deeper, probably about 3.5 foot, which is where I've got 2 rods. And to be quite honest with you, this is the only time I've actually been over here and felt quite confident of a bite. I've now seen fish show, a little bit long for me. I'm tucked in a bay, and someone to my left just fishing across, so sort of cut me off a little bit, but doesn't seem to have stopped the fish coming in here. I could say I've probably seen 10 shows this evening, say since I've been here, and that is 10 more fish than I've seen show every single time I fished here. So yeah, confidence is there, baits are there, rigs are there, fish are here. Just got to try and make it happen now. So, it's the morning after the night before. I must be honest, it looked promising last night. There were clearly fish in front of me that continued to stay here for the majority of the night. But unfortunately, no joy. I really did feel confident. As I say, it's the first time I've fished here where I've had fish on me. I feel like I've been fishing effectively and I've just been confident for a bite. But for whatever reason, it didn't happen. But this morning, sort of sitting here in anticipation, and out of nowhere, probably around the number of 50 geese have just turned up. Made a lot of disturbance, but there are still fish here. I've still seen a couple of fish poke their heads out, and it's enough for me to just sort of sit on my hands, leave my rods out, and just, you know, watch the geese drift over my spots, to be honest. I don't feel like at the moment there's a lot that I can do in this swim to try and produce a bite. It's about 6:30 now. I've already been up, had a coffee, walked up and down the bank, and with the amount of people that are fishing elsewhere, there's not really anywhere I would move to for my last few hours of the morning. I've been looking at the weather. The wind has turned ever so slightly. It's still trickling into the bay, not quite as strong as it was yesterday, but you know, enough to still look bang on, in all honesty. It's also due quite a bit of sun to pop out around about 9 o'clock, which is only going to aid me really, with all the fish potentially turning up again like they were last night. Would be nice, but you know, only time's going to tell. And at this moment in time, I'm quite happy where I am, so to give it a few more hours now. I'm going to pull off about 11 o'clock and get into work and finish doing what I've got to do for the rest of today, and with the intention of maybe popping down either tomorrow night after work again, or Friday night. It's now Tuesday, so no, it's now Wednesday, sorry, so yeah, we shall see. Right, so I've just seen one show, still in the bay. I'm fishing just that little bit longer. I was fishing quite close in last night, no more than about 15 to 20 yards, and that's sort of where the fish were, but they seem to have moved out a little bit more now. As I said, I've just seen one, so I brought my rod in. But whilst I've got the rod in, I might as well quickly show you. Really simple helicopter setup, as it is quite silty out there. Tiny little KD rig with a wofter, just coupled with a tiny little PVA bag with the tag end a little bit longer, so I could just wrap it around the hair of the KD rig, hold it all in place for the cast. So yeah, nothing too mad, real simple, but I know the fish could be quite wary in here, so I've opted for something like a little wafter, so it's just as natural as I can get it. I didn't really want to fish a big blatant pop up in front of them. Just keep it nice and simple, really down low. Just got to get a carp now. So, last time we spoke was at the end of my last session, which was the night before last. A really sort of disappointing session, to be quite honest with you. I really thought it was going to happen. There was certainly fish in front of me, and anyway, you've heard all that already, but it wasn't quite how I expected that last session to pan out, especially when I sort of set myself for the night ahead. So I left that morning slightly disheartened, went to work for the day, did what I needed to do, but all day I was thinking about getting back down here, and I did. So last night, quite late, it was just getting dark, so I didn't get any footage of setting up or anything, and just sort of did what I needed to do, took my time, get my rods out, but I couldn't get any bait out until at least sort of 25 minutes, half an hour into dark, because the bird life on here is something I've never experienced before. As I briefly said in my last session, I had no less than 50 geese turn up into my swim and just annihilate the whole area that I was fishing, basically. And I had a similar sort of thing last night. I tried putting just a few boilies around each rod, only fishing shallow water, reasonably close in, and yeah, the mallard ducks this time didn't plead any mercy whatsoever. But you know, eventually did get the bait out, and I'm happy to say, first light I was rewarded with a carp. Not one of the biggest, but first carp from frying in, and certainly one that I've worked hard for. So let's have a little look at that one. So there we go, my first frying in carp. We all know the old cliche, far from the biggest, but yeah, what an incredible fish it is. Mad to think they go to nearly 2.5 times the size of this in here. But yeah, just for the record, just shy of 22 pound, but it doesn't really matter. It's my first blood, and I'm absolutely over the moon. Can't wait to get to amongst some of the bigger ones in here. So yeah, as you just saw, finally managed to bag the first blood from the new Syndicate. It's not been easy, far from it in fact. It's proved hard enough to try and find the carp, let alone actually being able to fish for them, if someone else isn't already, and you know, catching one's a different story altogether. But yeah, chuffed nonetheless. It's a massive weight off your shoulders, as you know, from you know, first fish from a new lake. I've tried so many different ways to fish for them. Although I haven't done a lot of time, I've been all over the lake trying to fish different swims, familiarise myself with the lake, and you know, trying different methods, different baits. But last night I went a little bit different, something I'd usually do. Opted for washed out baits. Started washing them through in the morning, put a tiny little bit of hemp oil in with them as well, so although I'm putting washed out baits in, hopefully throughout the day they would have soaked in a little bit of the oil and give it a little bit of a slick throughout the night, well, but still looking like an old bait. So yeah, and it worked. Again, a hook bait was something I wouldn't usually use. My confidence is well high in pop-ups. For a long time I've used pop-ups. Everywhere this season, so far this year, I've fished pop-ups and haven't really got to a point where I wanted to change because I haven't needed to. But I actually opted for a Wofte, a tiny little 15mm Wofte on a KD rig. And that's what works. So again, absolutely chuffed with it, to be honest. But unfortunately, I do have to get off to work now. It's now about 7:30. It's been a couple of hours since I had the fish, and time to get the rods in, get to work, and yeah, crack on. Until next time, thank you very much. Right, so I'm just about to head off to work, but I've still got a little bit of bait with me. It's going to be ruined by the next time I get here. So what I'm going to do, just to the right of the swim I was just in, there's like a really small little swim. I've never seen a single person fish it. I've been here 7 or 8 times now. I've never seen rods out in this swim. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a little spot reasonably close in, similar sort of range as I was fishing next door, and just put the rest of my bait in. Really, I've probably got a couple of kilo, a bit of pellet, bit of particle, and a kilo and a half of boilie. So I'm going to spread that along a nice little area, sort of big enough for 2 rods. And if I do get a chance to come down here in 2 or 3 nights' time, which I don't know, if I do, and you know, I don't fancy anywhere else, or it's busy for whatever reason, it's going to be around about the sort of weekend, then I do have an option for somewhere I have put bait in previously in a similar sort of area that I've just caught from. So I'm going to do that now. Well, I wasn't expecting to get down here quite as soon as this, but here I am, third night on the bounce. It's the same as yesterday really. I was at work thinking about it constantly, when I can next get down. I didn't really have an excuse as to why to not go tonight. So I'm doing it. I'm in that swim that I put some bait in this morning. It seemed like a logical explanation really. On the back of the wind, exactly the same conditions as yesterday. It looks bang on. The birds are still here, so I'm fully expecting the same sort of issues as yesterday. You know, wait for pretty much darkness to put bait out and rigs in. But I'm happy with that. You know, the take came at first light this morning, about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and yeah, that will suit me quite nicely. But for the time being, it's about, I don't know, 7:30, 8 o'clock now. Got about an hour and a half of light left. Just behind me are 2 other lakes that are on the complex. So it'd be rude not to have a little go. A bit of floater fishing for them for the next couple, at least another hour or so. Then have some dinner, get the rods out, and see what the night brings. I'm sitting here quietly confident, but it's fishing and anything can happen. So I will update you as soon as I can. And yeah, fingers crossed. As you can see, there's quite a lot of birds. Now my catapult down. Challenge accepted. Great bit of sport just before a night's fishing. About half an hour or so left on here now until I wind it in, start getting ready for the other lake. But yeah, rather be doing that for half an hour instead of waiting for it to get dark. So yeah, brilliant. Happy days. Because I don't really have much of a choice with the catapult thing now. I've spun me out, and it's actually worked in my favour, because if I can keep the line out there or spawn past it afterwards, it's keeping the ducks out of the way. So although I'm only putting, I don't know, 7 or 8 baits in at a time, it's enough to bring the fish in, but they're keeping the line out there from the spawn, it's keeping the birds away. I love floater fishing. There we go. Not my preferred strain of our beautiful mirror carp, but on an evening like this, it gave up a hell of a fight. So more than welcome. I think it's getting close to that time now. Stop messing about with this and clean the rods out for the evening. uneventful night. It did pass quickly, apart from all the birds keeping me up for countless hours. Fish activity was next to none. I didn't hear a single carp last night. I didn't see anything. I was sitting up till quite late. As I say, I didn't get my rods out till well into darkness, and sort of sat there watching while I ate my dinner and stuff. But yeah, nah, didn't see anything last night at all. It's now about 8 o'clock. I overslept a little bit because, as I say, I was getting kept up all night by the birds, and the third overnighter on a bounce with work in between. Needed a little bit of a lay-in. So yeah, I'm off to work now. It's going to be a little while till I next get back down here. So at least a week now. I might get lucky and have a random session I can come up and have a go, but I doubt it, to be honest. I've got a busy week coming up. Lou's back to work early next week, so I have a good couple of days catching up, and then all of a sudden it'll be tail end next week. And yeah, I don't know, we'll see. If I get a chance to come up here, then brilliant. If not, then it is what it is. So until then, peace. Whilst packing up that final morning, already being late for work, out of absolutely nowhere, my middle rod dropped back, and I was rewarded with a small but very cool common. Probably no bigger than a mid-double, but to me, this looked like an offspring of the queen of the pond, the Mommon.
Hi, I'm Chris, the manager here at HF Angling and Crew. We're having a big open day today. Everyone's come down to support us. We've got Wofte, we've got sticky baits, we've got Nash, we've got PB products, we've got thinking anglers. All the customers are getting free goodie bags full of loads of little bits and bobs. We've got 10% off everything. We're all having a really good time. The lads have got tunes playing all day. We've got pizza. It's been great. And then as soon as we finish here, we're off to fish a nice little day ticket that's local to us. And I'm really looking forward to that as well.
So we're all finished up at the HF Angling Open Day. Just wanted to say a quick thanks to Chris and John for the invite, and also hats off for organising a really good event. It was really nice to meet some of the local customers in the area up here in Crewe, and also to catch up with some of the guys we saw today from the show season earlier in the year. So as Chris did briefly mention in the shop earlier, he's kindly put us onto a local venue for me and Tristan to do a quick overnighter while we're up this way. And on first impressions, it's an absolutely beautiful lake, covered in lily pads. It's 2 islands. It's sort of almost like a mangrove. There's snags everywhere, and yeah, on the first walk round, we've seen a couple of fish. So Tris Tris has got the floater rod out on the other side of the lake. I'm going to get round there now and get mine out and see if we can winkle one before the sun goes down. What have you seen, Tris?
I've finally found a couple of carp feeding. It's been difficult. We got here and within about 5 minutes had 1 or 2 fish taken. Just did a very quick lap of the lake to see what it was actually about, because we hadn't actually seen anything other than this one corner. And by the time we came back around the lake, there was about probably 15 geese that had just ruined the area completely. So spent about 20 minutes working the swim a little bit more, putting a few mixers out, and absolutely nothing. So we sort of decided to get a couple of our bits of gear together, get them around to the swim, and at least start something. And just as I came round to the second trip, we just well, one fish. Just took about 2 or 3 mixes. It's out there again now. And yeah, and there's a couple of fish in the swim now. And we've really, yeah, not been against us as such. We just have been very unlucky chasing the fish around, and then the geese have just really taken control of the swim. But on that note, I'm not going to ignore that, so I'm going to get straight on it.
Here's another thing here, isn't it? What's that then?
Go around.
Sink.
There we go. Quite the contrast from the weather from last night when we first arrived. In hindsight, we should have gotten the fish as soon as we found them. But nonetheless, best of 2 for me from last night, and lovely little mirror carp, and my first carp from the northwest of England. So, without further ado, I'm going to get this one back, and while we've got a break in the weather, have a little wander around and see if we can find some more carp. I've just re-pinged out that rod. So I had them fish on last night in a bit of a more open expansive water in comparison to the likes of what you can see around here, where there's just pads either side, really snaggy, and you know, it does look good, but to say that's where I had the fish from last night. So a fresh recast, a little bit of fresh bait around it, could produce another bite. I've got to fish absolute bowstring tight lines because there is debris out there, as well as the fact that I've got to try and keep my lines off of all the pads in our margin, really. So not my preferred method of fishing. Usually like a bit of slack line and to keep it sort of real pinned down to the bottom and subtle, but yeah, for these sort of circumstances, are our only real option. So pretty confident with those rods now. Just good to see the fish play ball, really.
Right, so Tris has just sorted his rods out, as he just said. I'm going to go for a quick wander around the lake with some mixers and see, now the sun's coming up, if I can see a few fish coming up for them. Going to leave my rods out, so Tris is going to look after them for 5 minutes. Just only going to nip round to near the car anyway. see what I can find, see if anything's coming up with this sun. It is actually feeling quite warmer now. All the kit's starting to dry out and dripping off now from horrendous rain last night. So I'm going to nip round there now, do a full lap of the lake, come back, and then start packing bits down to get into the van and to hopefully go for a wander and whip one out.
Right, so Lou's just gone off for a little wander with the bucket of mixers to see what he can find. In the meantime, I've actually just wandered up the other side of the bank, and I've just come around to this little corner. And as you can see, it's really, really windy, and the wind's pushing through this little channel. But as I say, I get round to the corner, it seems to be a real kind of area which has got no wind on it whatsoever. It's a really sheltered area, some massive trees around there, and again covered in pads. So, I mean, in my eyes, that looks pucker for getting some fish potentially going on the top, because they're definitely going to be up for it at some point. It's just when. So yeah, hopefully when Lou gets around to the other side, there'll be something to report.
Nice one, man.
Nice.
What's it?
Well, there you go. Results of a couple of hours trying to catch one off the top. I finally managed to get one on a little piece of bread on the edge of the lilies. What an absolute little banger for my first northwest carp. Just got his cool little cut tail. Perfect little mouth. Mega chuffed. Let's try and catch another one. Probably not the best view of my face, probably.
So as you just saw, Lou's finally managed to bag one from this lake as well, and off the top, and I could see it in his little face that he really, really wanted to catch one that way on here. After a pretty horrendous night's sleep last night with the wind and the rain and my brolly getting blown over twice in the process, the sun's starting to poke through the clouds and it's looking to be a really, really nice afternoon. Despite the wind still being around 30 or 40 mile an hour at times, we're going to have another go at floater fishing, get up the other end where the water's a lot calmer and the sun's really beaming down into that corner. So on that note, we're going to get the rods in, keep the brollies up just in case it rains again. We're going to get up the other end, have another go just before we go home.
So Tris was quite keen to get himself down to the other end of the lake surface fishing, and with the sun out like this now, I don't blame him at all. He's probably seen a few now already, and more than likely got a few going on floaters, so looking forward to joining him in a sec. I did hang back, and while I was packing up a few of my bits and pieces and getting ready to go surface fishing, it's managed to, the sun's come out so strong now that it's dried all my kit out, so I've had a proper pack away, got the brolly away, got two of my bottom rods properly packed up, and whilst doing that I've decided that I'm going to keep one out, tie up either a mesh or solid bag and just plop it in front of the pads that I'm going to be fishing over the top of on the top. I noticed yesterday when we got here that even though we were surface fishing, there was still a few fish milling around in front of us, like real close up, that weren't phased at all by us being there. So I'm going to position myself a second rod in close and hopefully bag myself one that way as well.
That was tough going. That was difficult. As I said a minute ago, we sort of came around here to see if there was any fish around here, and there was one or two sort of little koi up and down this line of pads, and there wasn't a lot of fish, to be honest, despite there is one just taken out there, which is the first one I've seen past these pads. and I had a controller float on. They were taking 1 or 2 dog biscuits, but in the end I just cut the controller off, tied a little size 10 on, freelined a tiny weeny little bit of bread because they wouldn't take anything bigger than about 10p coin. So yeah, but a tiny, like I could barely get it out there, and it landed in between 2 pads here, and it was there for about 10 minutes, like literally sitting there for about 10 minutes. And all of a sudden these little white lips just come up and just banged it. I can just see I put the hook right on the top lip just as it's come through these pads, and yeah, only small, but I'm well happy. How about that? Very, very cool carp. Not something I've had the chance to fish for very often. Clearly a very old fish as well. I'm not going to mess about, I'm going to get straight back in. There's a few more fish amongst the lily pads, and there's potentially a few more bites to be had for both of us. So yeah, well happy.
There you go. It's turning out to be a bit of a oriental afternoon, I suppose. Had a bit of our leftover Chinese for lunch before we come back down this end of the lake. Tris managed to catch a koi, and now I have 2. So not a usual surface culprit either, to be fair. But yeah, 2 in an afternoon. They're actually quite pretty little things, but yeah, I'm gonna get this one back and let Tris have a go after poaching his spot while he was packing up.
So that brings an end to another very enjoyable session. Once again, not the easiest of all conditions as we did expect, but we did find a few and we caught a few and had a right good laugh along the way, haven't we?
Yeah mate, definitely, yeah,
So,
coming here straight from the open day as well.
Yeah, it was a good turnout, wasn't it? Good food, good company, good customers.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been nice. I'd like to come back. Definitely like to come back. Caught a couple of Orientals, didn't we?
Ornamentals.
Orientals. But no,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a good laugh. Like, it's the first time we've fished together as well this year,
Yeah.
innit? So it's nice to actually get the rods out together.
And as you say, a nice variety of carp as well. We
That's
had
it.
a couple of nice commons, a couple of koi, a couple of orientals, and yeah, and a nice mirror thrown in there as well. So
Cool. So the next time you'll be joining us, I'll be back over my Syndicate, hopefully fishing my main water. See, the previous one you've seen me on the other water over the back because I couldn't get into my desired area. So hopefully you'll be joining me over there tomorrow night.
see you then.
See you then.
I think that's quite a cool ending, to be honest.
Hello again. Tonight you're joining me down my Syndicate, and thankfully I've been able to get into the swim that I've spent the most time in last year. I've only done the 1 session this year, and I was lucky enough to bag a couple of really nice commons. Nothing too big. They are in here, but yeah, back in the swim that I know well, and I've so far managed to get all 3 rods out. 2 of them were on the first time, the second one was on 3 attempts, so I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. Minimal disturbance. I did ping the marker out purely because I haven't been here for a few weeks, so just wanted to check that the spot's still clean, and hard and firm, and it's still at the same wraps that I've been used to fishing at. So I am only here for a quick overnighter tonight, and from previous experience and captures in this swim, the morning bites tend to come around sort of between 8 and 10 o'clock in the morning. I can push my luck a little bit with work, and I can push it until about 12 o'clock. So I will have that extra couple of hours just in case the bites have moved a little bit later, like they tend to do this time of year when it's been warm and into the summer. So I've had a barbecue burning away in the background for, well, since I got here really, which is bound to be ready by now. I'm starving hungry from a really busy first day back to work on a Monday, which it usually is. So I'm gonna go and put some grub on, finish off with a brew, get an early night, and fingers crossed for a bite in the morning.
Come off. No, that's a bite. Yeah. Don't do that. Yeah, it was going for, didn't you?
Yeah.
Just managed to find it. Now it's towing it over there. Nothing you can do about them. Put pressure on them. You get hook pulls because they just charge. It's free. Nice.
Bang.
Bang on bite time this morning. This one came just after I lost one on my right hand rod, and to be fair, did feel like a better fish, I'm not going to lie. But that's fishing, that's how it goes. Whilst I was putting that rod back out, this one picked up really slowly and then dropped back. I am fishing up to a weed bed, so there is always that chance of it happening, the fish coming towards us rather than steaming through the weed. And this is the culprit of that bite. Been a little bit unlucky with the size of this one. There are some bigger ones in here, but more than happy to catch this little character nonetheless. I'm going to get him back now. It's still probably an hour left of potentially a good little feeding spell on here, so I'm going to get that rod back out. The other two are still out. Sit here and fingers crossed for another one. I've had some really prolific hits on this lake in the mornings between the sort of bite time. So what I've sort of always done is, as soon as I've had one, I've put another handful of bait on the spot and got the rod back out as quickly as possible, because
like you can really get bites real quick, as it's sort of proved already, having two already this morning. One obviously dropped off, but which I am really gutted about, to be honest. It felt like a nice one, but it's just fishing. You can't have them all. You just got to keep your game on and just fish well for the rest of your session. Well, it appears like the action has dried up in this swim now. I've given it till 12, which is definitely my cut-off period for this swim, given that the sun is right up in the sky now, and it's turned out to be quite a warm day. Although they like to spend the nights and the early mornings up this end of the lake, I think now with the sun and the warmth, I think they've pushed themselves down into the shallower end of the lake. It's a bit weedier there, and they like to sun themselves, so obviously if I had a little bit more time on my hands, that's exactly where I'd be, probably with my floater rod, giving it a go on the top for them. I do have a lot on at work today, so it's 12 o'clock, I've already pushed my luck a little bit anyway, so it's time to get the rods in, get the kit away in the car and head off back to work. The next time you're going to see me out on the bank is going to be in the second volume of this diary series. We do have some answers to some questions that we've been sent through on our Instagram story up next, but until then, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. So, about a month ago, we put on our Instagram story to ask us a few questions, and we said that we'd be answering them at the end of this film, which is exactly what we're going to do now. We've printed them out, so we're going to answer them right away.
First question is from Wrecking Boyley. Why do I like your clothes so much? We do try. We do try. Thank you.
So the first one that I'm going to answer is, we've had this one quite a lot from a lot of you. The three I've picked out: Bev Clifford, who came up with the name Wofte; JP Angles UCC, were you ever nervous about starting your own brand; Colonel Stapleton, who founded the business and why. It's a bit of a common theme with these ones. A lot of you guys asking about how we sort of began and how we started the brand, etc. We're going to answer that one in a separate video before the Volume 2 version of this film is out. So look out for that one.
Next question from Briggs Dan. Prefer fishing for carp pre or post spawn? Me personally, let them get it over and done with over the summer. When it starts to cool down a little bit and the weights are back up, have a go for them.
Next one for me, Cotswold Curly, more waft than waft. More curly than the Cotswolds, mate.
Stu Taggart. Any autumn or winter products in the pipeline? We do have a couple coming out this autumn, but even more so next autumn. This year, throughout the autumn and winter, it's going to be our main testing period for some pretty special garments coming up. So until next year, that will be.
I've got two here as well that I'm going to combine again. So one's from Sun_281989. How do you become a part of Wofte? And another one from Liam Brookfield. How do I get on with Wofte? Again, like the first one that I answered, we've had quite a lot of questions about becoming a member of the team or promo team, or based around that sort of how do we get involved. And to sort of summarise all of that into one answer, we don't really have a team as such. We do obviously have a few anglers that have become really good friends of ours over the last few years that we do use for testing purposes, whether they're testing new samples or we're bouncing ideas around with. But we don't really have an extended team like a lot of other companies in the industry do. We've sort of kept it quite small. There's a little team of us in that respect. So there is no real way to join us as such, but we sort of take all of our customers are involved with our brand because you're out there repping our garms, and yeah, I mean, keep sending your pictures in and stuff, guys, and we'll use them as and when we can.
Phone!
Good afternoon, Wofte Clothing, Louis speaking.
Mike van der Speck. Got the full camo 5 panels already. They are pretty much finished their manufacturing stage. and not long now and they'll be on their way to us. So within the next week or so, won't be long, they'll be available.
So Luke Kennard, Nash Tackle, ever thought of doing Wofte trainers? Yes, we have looked into footwear, Luke, and it is something we definitely be producing in a few years' time. We're not ready quite yet, but we've started that ball rolling, so yeah, have a look out in the future, mate.
Lewis Sherwood, what is your favourite capture and how did you catch it? Why is it so special to you? For me, I think that will be, went up to Sandhurst with 17 of us, so it was a bit busy social, all from a close syndicate that over a couple of years we got to know really well, and yeah, planned a trip up there. I was very lucky in the respect that I caught my PB and one of the big mirrors in the lake, very old fish, and I think that says it all really, massive highlight of my fishing.
I have Carpaholic. Are there coming out some cargo pants in the future? Greetings from Germany. We already have a couple of pairs of cargo pants out. There is a pair of combat shorts that we do, Tech Combat shorts they're called, and we also do a full length version which are the Tech Combats. You can find them online or from various dealers.
My final question, Andy Adams, who has the cutest nose you know? Well, Andy, you have that award. That beautiful button nose will take some beating.
And my last question, or questions, I'm combining these again. One from Vitok, do you have a dealer in Italy? The answer to that is no, not at the moment, but you can help us by going into your local tackle shop and requesting that they stock our items. We can then, you know, when we hear from that particular dealer, we can then sort out the supply chain our end and we can get our products over there to you to buy. And Greg Topless, again a similar one, where can we buy Wofte in South Africa? Again Greg, if you can help us out by going into your local dealer and requesting that you want to buy our products, when they get in touch we'll sort it out and hopefully you can see things in the flesh for yourself over there.
So that wraps up the questions that we had to answer. Once again, thank you very much for watching Between the Seams Volume 1. Number 2 is underway. We have started filming, just got to get ourselves into gear and get that all edited now. It should be around about early autumn before that's released. So until then, keep an eye on our YouTube channel. There may be a couple little surprises released in between. And don't forget to subscribe. And thank you very much for watching.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.